You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there, friends, and welcome to this epic episode with the fantastic and beautiful human Tsipa Swan. She is much more than that, too. I'm going to keep the intro short and sweet because she and I talked about so very much. And if you saw how long this particular episode is and you press play anyway, thank you. I'm sending you so much gratitude right now. I promise you it will be worth your time. Because you can go on a long walk in nature. I always encourage that. And listen to this in its entirety. Or you can be commuting to work and listen to half of it on the way there, the other half on the way home. Or you could be working on your dishes and your laundry. We're actually going to bring up those chores in this talk, and it's all good. It helps to feed your brain with something positive while you're doing the mundane. However it may be that you choose to listen, I do these things all the time with long form podcast conversations, and it really does work. And here's what I want you to know about this one. Every conversation that I have with my friends here and every conversation that they are so gracious to share with the world is another real and raw talk about things that we don't always have the opportunity to discuss in our daily lives. If you have been listening to earlier episodes here, again, I want to thank you. You will hear me mention an astrology reading that I received in January. Well, that was from Tsipa. I referred to it in episode 52, the 1-year anniversary of this podcast. The title is, Who Do You Think You Are? I'm pretty sure that I mentioned back then my vision was to eventually bring her on to discuss all things astrology, and that I didn't want to mess it up because I have learned just enough to be dangerous. Well, here we are, about 4 months out from that anniversary episode and 7 months from that initial reading, and it still gets me. I've replayed my recording of that reading a few times just to learn more about myself and my journey. This is my fellow starseed and astrology person. She is my soul coach. Here's a little bit more about her. She is also a professional psychic with a lifelong passion for understanding and healing the spirit and the self. As a child, she sought refuge in novels and self-help books to help her through painful situations, and soon found the mesmerizing journey of self-help and spirituality that helped her to build and shape her own life. And through 30 years of trial and error, guidance, and much appreciated spiritual grace, Tsipa has discovered clear and effective ways to help people achieve their next levels of healing, growth, and self-expression, which leads them to the work that they came to this planet to do. A former opera singer and doula, this amazing human is also a Huffleclaw, half Hufflepuff, half Ravenclaw, a fan of peanut butter and pickles together, and a devoted Anglophile. So let's get to this conversation with my friend and soul coach, Tsipa. Welcome, my friend Tsipa. What lights you up?
Hello. Well, thank you for having me here. And what lights me up? I think the thing that I'm really most aware of now is how good it feels to do little anonymous connections with people, like little, like I was at Trader Joe's a couple days ago, and I saw a woman there who was wearing scrubs, and I kind of glanced at her name tag, and it said the name of a local medical facility. And I was like, oh, I can't, like, I didn't spy on her. I was like, I don't know what she does, but she clearly works in a medical industry, and she was at Trader Joe's and she was looking at the flowers. And I kind of was like, I feel like I need to buy her flowers. So I watched her pick out flowers, and I like got my things, and I went to the cash register and I was like, hey, that woman over there, I want to buy her roses. I saw her pick out roses. They're $7.99. Can I pay for them? And, we worked it all out. And then she came up behind me in line, and the cashier told her, this woman paid for your roses. And it seemed like she didn't really, like, it didn't really register with her what was happening. And I was like, it's fine. Cause it just felt so good to like have this little moment of conspiracy with the cashier about like buying something nice for a medical professional because they've had such a hard time. And it just felt like I got this impulse from the universe, or from my intuition, or my conscience, or something, like some good part of me was like, hey, let's do something nice for somebody, and just like have a little moment of that. And it just feels really, really good when I get that chance. And I think that's one of the things that was hardest for me about like hard lockdown. Mm-hmm. Is just missing those moments of connecting with strangers over like
Mm-hmm.
those little ties that make us who we really like to be.
Oh my God, you are just starting this off like, whoa, with a bang. Let's talk about your name though next,
Yes.
because wow, yeah, I'm already getting teary-eyed from that story. I really am. That's pretty flippin' amazing. Amazing things happen at Trader Joe's. They really do. They do. They do. Um, all right. So let's talk about we were talking just before press record about how do you pronounce the name? Is the T silent? Is it, so
Yeah.
help me with that.
Yeah. So my name is Tsipa, spelled Tsipa, and it's a Jewish name, a Russian Jewish name. I was named after a friend of the family. This woman that my dad really, really admired. She passed away a few years ago, but she was, a really big activist, political activist, and just, had this really interesting life, traveled all over the place. And she was just somebody that he really wanted to honor. And he always wanted his kids to have unusual names. So we do. He nailed it.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, it's most people who are native English speakers just say Tsipa as though there's no T. My own parents actually say it that way. But it is for anybody who speaks another language, usually, or singers usually are pretty good at it. It's a tsa sound, like tsunami. So Tsipa. And we have that sound in English. We just don't have it in the beginning of a word. So it's just a little bit tricky for our brain to be like, wait a minute, there's an unvoiced consonant T, yes, like at the beginning, like it doesn't make sense to our English speaking brains. So I'm pretty flexible about that as long as you get the rest of the letters right.
I mean, thank you so much for explaining that, because I have known you for a while in terms of, just our connection, even on social media or that kind of thing. And we have talked back and forth for, gosh, I don't know, a year at least. And I always thought every time I see something on your profile that says, this is how you pronounce my name, the T is there. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's really, like I said, it's just not something that our English speaking brains are used to.
Mm-hmm.
But I really appreciate that you asked, because I honestly forget that people don't know how to say my name, because I know how to say my name. Also, I rarely say my name because I'm right. So
Yeah.
I try to remind myself that people don't know how it's pronounced, and like to open that door so people feel comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody with an unusual name, I find that everybody with an unusual name has the same sort of attitude. It's like, just ask. It's totally fine. Because if you don't ask, then you don't know, and you kind of avoid the thing, and then you avoid the person, and nobody likes that. Right.
Oh.
And it's like, like I'm pretty sure that, back in the days of when I worked for other people, I'm pretty sure when I gave my resumes in, I was profiled as like, I don't know what, a foreigner or something,
Right. Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
my name is just so very unusual and people just kind of don't want to go there. They don't want to be faced with their own, what feels like ignorance. It's like, it's the most obscure name in the world. You're
Yeah.
not ignorant. You just haven't come across this very obscure name.
Oh.
There's like 5 places in this tiny, tiny little, like very far out rural part of Russia that have the name Tsipa. And there's a very small Greek island, and that's kind of it. And like,
Wow.
it's not a name people come across. And I think most people with unusual names probably feel that way. Just like, but I think that there are a lot of aspects of humans where it's like we think we're supposed to know, and so we don't ask, and so then it never comes up, and we don't all get to experience that, like the learning or the connection, because we're afraid to look stupid.
I
I
am
mean,
so glad we are starting the conversation off this way. I am so glad making
yeah,
that connection,
yeah,
asking questions. It's very vulnerable on my part to say,
yeah, so
I
cool,
don't know. I'm
right?
not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
do I say
How do
it?
I? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know X. How do I? Or I'm not sure about this. Can you help me? Like
Mm-hmm.
it feels so daunting to do it. But honestly, I can't think of a situation when somebody has said that to me about my name or anything where I'm not like, oh, I get to help them with the thing. Like, it feels so good to be asked something. It's like, hey, you're good at this and I'm not as good at this. Would you tell me? And it's like, everybody loves that. Like, who doesn't love hearing that?
Yeah.
It feels so good. Someone's like, hey, you're better at this than me. And you're like, oh, I am. Thank you. That's fabulous. Let
I
me show
love it.
you,
Uh,
darling friend, that I now feel so loving, and like I feel so good at taking care of you in this way. My new connection person.
mm,
That's like it.
mm-hmm.
It just feels so good. And I
Mm,
think we forget that people actually are lovely.
yeah.
The vast majority of the time. And if we ask them a thing, they'll want to help us.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is, yeah, we are starting off amazing. Amazing, as I knew we would. Fantastic. I want to talk about something that I have heard you say before that was something along the lines of that you rode the struggle bus from birth to age 35. Is what you said. I mean, and I may or
I
may
get
not
back
have
on
gotten the number.
sometimes.
Well, right? I mean, we
I
all
mean, I
do,
think,
don't
yeah,
we?
you do. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I was a dedicated card carrying struggle bus member for quite a long
Mm,
time.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah. And then you went into like, I'm talking about like depression. Like I felt like I didn't belong in some way,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very much that.
Yeah. How do you how do you overcome that? How do you get
Mm.
past how do you get off the struggle bus? I mean, again, we all write it from time to
Yeah,
time.
totally. We
We
all
do.
do.
We do. But how do you get off like the long
The
ride,
long haul journeys.
the
Yeah.
long haul journey of the struggle bus?
Yeah.
How did you
Well,
do that?
I think that the way that I've found, and this is a Taoist principle, the way that I've found that works best to overcome something is to accept it first.
Mm,
So
mm,
for me, I've always had this feeling of alienation, of otherness, of I don't belong, I'm not good enough. I mean, I think every human's greatest fear is some version of I'm not good enough. Like we all have a flavor of that. It's just what flavor is it going to take?
mhm,
My flavor was I don't belong like in my family. I don't belong in my peer group. I don't belong in my school. I don't belong in
mhm,
my generation. I don't belong on earth. Like it got really existential. I was having existential crises very
mhm,
young.
mm,
Um, and so I felt like this was something I need to get rid of. That
Mm,
like if I can just figure out how to belong, how to feel like I belong, then I'll be okay.
mhm.
That I need to overcome this. Sorry, that sound was my kitten who's helping me.
Yes. I
14-year-old
I
kitten.
can visually see you holding the kitten and
She's a
and playing around with
14-year-old
the
kitten.
14-year-old kitten,
Yeah.
which is great. But yes, okay, so those sounds.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
fantastic.
it's really about um, there was this sense of like, I need to get rid of this in order to be okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this can't be part of a happy life. This can't be part of me feeling good.
Mm,
And through a number of things and through the work that I now do, I it became very obvious to me that that is just a way I feel.
yeah.
It's not a thing that's true. It's just a way that I'm prone to feeling.
Hmm.
And there are very good reasons for it, and it's okay, and it doesn't mean it's real,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it is real. Sometimes I am in like sometimes we put ourselves in an environment that really doesn't suit us, and the thing to do is get out of that environment. That's also a thing, right? We have to allow that that could be a thing that's happening. If you're prone to having that feeling of like I don't belong, like okay, well, is it legitimately an environment you need to get out of? But if you're having a feeling like I don't belong on earth or I don't belong in humanity, that's not something that's like, well, I'll just move to like Venus, it'll be fine.
Right.
um
Right.
there's ways of solving smaller versions of that work, and ways of solving that won't work for the bigger version.
Hmm.
But for me, it was really just normalizing it, like normalizing it. Oh, this is that feeling that I get. This is the thing where I feel like I don't belong. Okay, there's a lot of different perspectives you can take about how to deal with that, but they all stem from accepting that that's okay.
Hmm.
Like that's okay. So
Hmm.
it's okay that I feel like I don't belong. And then one solution might be, so because I'm here on, in this time, I'm here to help create the world that I want to see,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or I feel like I don't belong, and my role is then to like embrace that and use that to become a person who does belong in a really powerful way as a leader rather than a follower. Because the problem is not that I feel like I don't belong. The problem is that I don't belong as a follower,
Mm,
right?
mm.
I'm not comfortably a part of the zeitgeist. And so there are ways in which I need to change my relationship to that and change my expectations of myself. Like normal's not going to be a place I feel terribly comfortable.
Mhm.
And so what do I want my abnormal to look like? And then stop judging it as being like not good enough abnormal. Be like, oh, actually leaders are abnormal.
Yeah.
So maybe my thing is that I need to be a leader. And for me, that's what I've come to, is that I need to be, I need to embrace leadership,
Hmm.
um, and stop casting my abnormality or my feeling of not belonging in the most negative light, which is, it's a very like normal way to experience that, especially as a child.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, we grow up and we're like, okay, hold on. This is now I'm just victimizing myself if I keep doing it this way. Like, let's think of another way to cast this. And again, the thing that I think has helped me the very most is just normalizing it and being like, yep, okay, that's fine.
Isn't it even wild to talk about the word normal and even think? I mean, we could go off on so many tangents right now. We could go off on the patriarchy and all
Right, right.
things about, all of the boxes that have been created in our society, at least here in America,
Mhm.
what that looks like for us right now. But that's not why I wanted you here. I wanted you to talk about, although I know we could have amazing conversations around the patriarchy. I
Yes,
already know we
absolutely.
would,
Yes,
we
I will
would,
come
we
back
would.
for another one on that.
Yay! Okay, let's do it someday. All right. Um, I want to talk about astrology
Hmm.
because that is your jam at
Yes.
this point in time. And I have really, for lack of a better word, been sucked right into your world in that because,
Yay.
yes, because, you provided me with a reading. I mentioned this on an earlier episode. I will provide that in the pre in the pre or post notes, but what episode that was, but just a mention that it happened. And
Yeah.
I do remember saying at the time, I'm like, and I'm going to have her on someday. So this is the day it's
Yay,
happening.
so
Yay,
happy to
yay,
be
yay.
here.
Yeah, that was a big deal for me because that really opened up a lot. That opened up a lot for me in my brain, in my mind, in my world about who I was. And I think that's kind of like the entire,
Mm,
context of this conversation, right?
yeah.
Who
Oh my
I
God, I'm
am.
so happy to hear. I love that it had an impact
Oh,
on you like
yeah,
that.
it really did. And I was so hesitant to, oh my God, I was having
Yeah, we like
so,
had a hiccup. We were setting it up, and
mm,
and we had a little hiccup over I think birth time, and you were like,
birth
"It's
time.
okay, never mind, we won't do it." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, where are you
No,
going?
it's like
Hold on,
I
come back,
don't
back to
know
me."
what it is. And and that kind of actually that almost brings us to a little circle from the beginning. It's like talking about your name and how different that is. It's like I feel different and I feel isolated and I
Yeah,
feel all of these things for like I don't have a birth time. I don't freaking know. I was
yeah,
born at home. And I haven't met anyone in my life who doesn't know that information. And so I was
so
feeling
interesting.
I was all up in my head about talking to you about that because you're like, oh, well, I just need your birth date and your time and your location. And I'm like,
We're like,
oh,
"No, the
God.
thing, it's the thing that yeah,
The thing, it was
yeah,
everything that just got me all twisted. And you're right. I did. I wanted to back out. So, oh, I don't know it. So forget it.
yeah." And I was like, "No, no, no, it's okay. We'll work with it." So here's the
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
interesting thing is like I think when we start to kind of analyze our own, like if we have somebody help us analyze the thing that we just think is real, where you're like, I don't know anybody who doesn't know their birth time. And I'm like, girl, nobody knows their birth time. Nobody knows
Mm,
their birth time. They have to go ask
fair.
their mom. They have to go look it up. Frequently it's not right. My dad, he had to do this. His father-in-law is also an astrologer, like does astrology, uh, sort of as just a passion project. And
Mhm.
they did this whole rectification on him because he didn't know his birth time either.
And
Um,
rectification is what you
oh,
did
sorry.
with me.
Yeah,
No, that
rectification
that
is
is
where
what
you
you did
like
with
kind of
me. Yeah.
back calculate your birth time based
Mhm.
on what you do know of a person.
Mhm.
And so and there's so much information you can get without a birth time anyway. Like the birth time is like it's really important. And this is one of those places where we've got there's this concept that I love that I've been really into recently, and that's that a great truth is characterized by the fact that its opposite is also a great truth.
Mm,
And I
that's
just
good.
love that. And it's like a trivial truth is the opposite would be absurd. But a
Mm,
great truth, the opposite is always true as well. It's always a great truth as well. So I love that concept. And so on the one hand, a birth time is like so vitally important. We want to know the exact moment, the exact minute and second that you took your first breath in this world. It's so vital to know with your birth chart. And you still obviously exist. We still have information about you. So if we don't have that exact moment, it's okay.
mhm.
We can work it out and we can get so much information. And that's why the type of astrology that I practice is that's why it is the way it is, because I don't want anyone to feel like they just don't get to have that type of information about themselves. I think this information is so vitally useful
Mhm.
and interesting and transformative and liberating when it's done well, that I don't want anyone to feel like they don't get to have that just because somebody didn't write something down,
Mm,
20, 40, 60 years ago. Like that's no good.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Why is it so important to know, I, still, this is a question of curiosity.
Mhm.
Why is it so important to know exactly the time, again,
Mhm.
exactly as
Yeah.
as well as you can,
Right.
the time that you took your first breath on this earth? Is it like in terms of astrology,
Mhm.
is it, I want to know where all of the planets were aligned at that
Yeah, yeah,
time? I
yeah. Okay,
mean, yeah, tell me
so
about it.
if I don't know if I know someone's birthday but not their birth time, let's say
Hmm.
there's a celebrity, I'm like, ooh, like she's really interesting. I want to look at her chart, but I only know her birthday. I don't know her time.
Hmm.
That'll tell me where all the planets were in terms of what signs they were in. So what energies they were in. So like
Hmm.
in was Mars in Aries, where it's at home and it's like feeling all like fired up and passionate and like everything's aligned. It's like, yes, I'm the planet of fuel and action, and I'm in a sign of action and, audacity. Or was it in Taurus, which is where my Mars is? It's a very different feeling Taurus, because Taurus is very like laid back and placid. Taurus is a bull, and so if
Hmm.
you think of a bull, there's like two parts of Taurus. There's the bull that is, like, I'm gonna hang out and like lie in the field and I'm gonna smell the flowers, and
There's
it's like
Ferdinand.
there's Ferdinand. Exactly, exactly.
Right.
Or the other archetype we have of bulls is this like aggressive creature that when
Hmm.
provoked will gore you. And
Hmm.
it's so there's like that's a very different type of Mars placement than Aries, right? And so we can tell without any time at all
Hmm.
what sign all the planets were in, because that's where they literally were. That's not like
Hmm.
that's not, a birth chart kind of
It's not
construct.
like minute by minute
Right.
they're
Those are
necessarily moving.
right. The
They,
moon
they
is the
may
is
be, but yeah. Okay,
right. They
tell
may
me.
be,
Yeah.
but the moon is the planet that or the it's a luminary technically, but it's the planet, the major placement that moves the most quickly in the
Hmm.
zodiac.
Hmm.
And so the minutes can make a difference there too, interestingly.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not going to move as quickly. And so we can get a really good basic read of somebody's energies. Then there's this other system overlaid on top of that, and that's houses. And so the house is the area of your life where that planet and that sign are hanging out.
Hmm.
So for example, if you have, so I'll just talk about my chart. I have Mars in Taurus.
Hmm.
I have Mars in Taurus in the 12th house. 12th house is like, so Mars, I want you to think of like Mars as this like yeah, like aggressive energy. So Mars is a little bit like, um, not like a not like a bomb, but it's like there's all this activity there. It's this planet of action. But Taurus is like, no, no, no. We're gonna nap and we're gonna have a snack and then we're going to sit on the couch. Like Taurus is very like laid back energy. Taurus is, you know, fishermen and farmers stretching back to time immemorial, where it's like it's been done the same way over and over. There's this what is the word I'm looking for? Methodic quality to it. It's artisanal. It's like steady and stable, right?
Hmm.
And then the 12th house is sort of like your basement. So Mars and Taurus in the 12th house is like you took all of that like pew pew energy and you put it underground, but then in the 12th house it's like you buried it under the basement.
Hmm.
So that's like that's a
Hmm.
thing where like now I have to go excavate to find my fat, my fuel and my passion, but also my anger, right? So that's a different experience than if I had Mars and Taurus in the 7th house of relationships,
Hmm.
right? Then that's a very different experience, because relate the 7th house is like your one-to-one committed partnerships, and that can mean romantic partnerships or platonic partnerships or business partnerships or anybody that you're going to be sitting across from the table
Hmm.
with on a
Hmm.
regular basis. That's
Hmm.
7th house. And so in the 7th house is just going to have a very different experience of that. And the way we determine houses is we look at where the horizon was at the moment you were born. And
Okay.
that just tells us, right, where in relation to you, in relation to your birth, were all those signs and planets and energies. And so does that sound clear? I want to make sure that
It, I mean, it does to me because we
okay.
have kind of had this conversation before, but I do want to
Yes.
ask you at this point, how many houses are there? Are
Oh,
there
sorry. There
12?
are 12.
Okay,
There are
let's,
12.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And
there's
they're based
basically,
on,
yeah, it's based on it's based on how many signs there are. So there's as many signs as there are houses. There's 12 signs and there's 12 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at a birth chart, and I mean a proper birth chart, there are some apps that'll put it into like columns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read those very well. I always have to visualize it as a circular birth chart. That's how you'll see it.
Yeah.
And what that is you're looking at the center is basically the earth. And then the circle is the sphere of the sky around it. It's a representation of the whole, the whole solar system and asteroids and all the things around it. And so there are 6 houses on the bottom. It looks like you're looking down at a pie that's been cut into pieces already.
Okay. It's pretty simple. Perfect.
And then the bottom half is houses 1 through 6, and the top half is houses 1 through 12 or 7 through 12. And so it goes counterclockwise. I have free resources on my website. If you want to link to that.
Perfect. Yeah.
People can go check out the intro stuff. But so if you're listening to this and you're just like, oh my God, this is so complicated.
Because it's way more than looking at your daily horoscope.
Totally.
Right? It's way more than a couple of sentences on, based on your birth date falling, in this area, this is how your day is going to go.
Right. Because that kind of an experience absolutely and very reasonably leads people to reject astrology, because they're like, there's no way I'm going to have the same Sunday as 1/12 of the population. That's dumb. Like, yeah, it is. You're not going to.
Right.
And so when we oversimplify, yes, astrology it can be very, very complicated, and you don't need to learn all the complicated part. You can learn just enough to be useful. And so the things that I want people to focus on, that I think are the most useful, are your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. Okay. Your sun and your moon, those are things that you almost everybody can find out what your sun sign is, what your moon sign is. Almost everyone can find that out without a birth time. There are very few exceptions where you're born like right at the cusp between one sign and another, or your moon is right between one sign and another. That actually, we were talking about birth time. That actually was what happened with my partner. I did his chart based on him telling me his birth time was like 6:30 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Your moon's at 0 degrees of Capricorn. And then he found his birth certificate like 6 months later. It's like 10:30 at night. And he texted me, he's like, oh yeah, actually I was born at 6:07 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay. And I put it in and I was like, oh, you have a Sagittarius moon? That's so different. And he's like, okay, good night. I love you. And I'm like, what is
23 minutes, 23 minutes difference.
Yeah. 23 minutes difference.
Okay.
And so it can make a difference, but it's like, you're going to have, if you're that cuspy, you're going to have some overlap anyway, but that's why it really helps to like speak to a professional.
Is cuspy a word, or did you just make that up?
I mean, I made it up a while ago, but I don't think it's real, but it's real now. We've it's kind of cuspy. Yeah.
I think I'm going to use it. Go.
I think
keep going.
Yeah. So, your rising sign is the thing that's going to be the most obviously determined by your birth time. For most people. So if you do know your birth time, you go to astro.com. They have a free website. They will not spam you. It's fantastic. And you put in your date and time of birth, and they'll tell you what your sun, moon, rising are. They'll tell you your whole chart, and then you'll know. And then there it is.
I will add that to the show notes. Good.
Yeah, it's great. Astro.com. The website is called Astro Dienst. I've been using them for years. They're fantastic. They're like the gold standard of really accessible software.
Okay.
And so when you know your sun, your moon, and your rising, and then for entrepreneurs, I always want them to know their midheaven sign too, which is like a thing I can get into later if there's time. But basically your sun is like the core of who you're becoming. It's not necessarily who you are, and especially depending on your age. When you're younger, you don't identify with your sun as much as you do when you're older. Your moon sign also is very, very much, it's representational of your young self or your emotional self. And then your rising sign is how you appear in the world. It's how you come across to people, how you approach new situations. So there's these 3 aspects of yourself. And I still love reading. There are some horoscopes that I love, some people that do that type practice that type of astrology where they're reading horoscopes for a month or a lunar cycle or a week or whatever. If I have the time, I will listen or read for my sun, moon, and rising. If I don't, I just read for my rising sign.
Okay. So the 3 aspects that you're referring to are your rising sign, your sun, and your moon.
Right. And your rising sign, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And your rising sign is also called your ascendant. So same thing. It's just the exact same thing, just different words for it. If you look at your birth chart on the very left-hand side, it'll say AC. That's just ascendant. And that's the place we talked about that's where the horizon was. That's what constellation the horizon was at when you were born. Right. So it's right there. If you know your birth time, plug it in. It'll tell you what your rising sign is. And what that does is that tells you where all of the houses are. Once you know where all the houses are, that'll tell you how a given planetary transit might be affecting you, right? Because if we saw okay, Mars in Taurus in the 12th house is different from Mars in Taurus in the 7th house, or Mars in Taurus in the 3rd house, right? So for example, as we're recording this, we've got, let me see, I think we've got Mars in Leo still. And I'm looking now. Yes, Mars is still in Leo. And Mars in Leo for somebody who has Leo in the 10th house is going to be different from Mars in Leo from someone who has Mars in Leo in the 4th house, right?
Gotcha.
Like there's going to be a different effect. And so when you know your rising sign, it's telling you, here's the part of your life, right? Here's the issues that might be coming up. And so,
I'm sorry, the cat. I
know
just,
she loves conversations.
Amazing.
She loves hearing people talk. So every time I listen to a video or have a conversation on Zoom, she's like, "Hi, I love all of you. I love you so much.
I love it.
I need pets." So it's when you listen to your rising sign horoscope, that's going to give you the most, the thing that affects you the most, right? It's going to be talking to you about, right? Mars and Leo in the 4th house, which is where mine is my Mars is not in Leo, but my Leo's in the 4th house. So if Mars is in Leo, it's in my 4th house. And that means it's going to be dealing with issues of family and home and roots and, my ancestry, that kind of a thing. For somebody who has Leo in the 10th house, it's going to be about your career.
Okay. So you're just kind of launching. I mean, we have just
I know you opened the floodgates
straight into the deep end here. I mean, no.
It's overwhelming.
It's my question is, you're like answering my questions. That's what the crazy thing is. The problem is when this is a podcast, it's like, okay, what questions is she answering?
Yes. And
it's like we're telepathically talking right now, but
right. That is part of the problem with doing a podcast with a psychic, is that you just like, all right, I don't even get to
stop, get out of my head. So, okay. So my question was going to be, why does all of this matter?
Okay. Oh,
right. Why does all of this matter? The planets and the moon and the sun and the rising and all of this. Why does this matter?
Okay.
To one's daily life and that kind of thing? Tell me.
Yeah, I have chills. I love that you asked me this question. Okay. So
you already knew I was going to ask it though. Because
I did, but I just love hearing it. So here's the thing. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Okay. If your life is great and you're just chugging along and you have all the things figured out, a lot of people have everything figured out that they want to have figured out, and God love them. Get down with your bad self. I love this for you. Go on that journey.
Yeah.
It's those of us who are like, why does it feel like everybody got a manual for how to be a human and I did not? Why can I not be in a committed relationship? Why do I keep having this thing come up with insomnia? Why is my health like that? Right? Where there's a thing where you're like, I'm on the struggle bus. I've dealt with this for years, months or years or decades even, and it's not changing. Why? I've gotten help. I've gotten therapy. I've gotten coaching. I've gotten, I do the work. what's wrong. There's something that's not right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's when astrology matters.
Okay.
Everyone is going to go through that at some point. And I want people to know that your birth chart is a snapshot of the energy of the universe at the moment you were born. And that might sound really woo to you, but we have to understand that, just because we think that, oh, well, it's really easy to think. And I used to think this too before I really understood astrology, but it's sort of easy to think, well, it's Jupiter, it's so far away, it's not going to affect me. Obviously, that's so goofy. But think of the moon. The moon affects our tides. We know that. That's not even a thing. That's not even a woo thing. That's just science. Literally, science is like, oh yeah, it's definitely the moon. The moon is definitely doing that. That's what happens. It's the tides. So we've also begun to understand that it affects our hormones, right? That's where the root of the word, we talk about lunacy or lunatic.
Lunar. Oh my God. I never even thought about that before. Whoa.
Yeah. It's because during the full moon, people notice an uptick in psychiatric issues or emotional issues. It's because the full moon is it's affecting your emotions. And then if we think about who do you think what do you think the purpose was of the first calendar?
Oh my God. No idea. I don't know.
To track a period.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The word menses, menstruation, it comes from moon. It's that same root.
What?
Yes, because
that's the reason that calendars were created.
Yes,
was from menstruation.
Person who needs to know a calendar. They're like, I just bled, and I need to know when the next time that is happening.
Oh God, you're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, and that's because when women spend a significant amount of time outdoors at night, or in being able to see the moon, their menstrual cycle will change. You can actually reset your menstrual cycle by exposing yourself to either the moon or a moon-like light for several nights in a row around the full moon while you're sleeping. You can reset your menstrual cycle. It takes a few months, but you can. So if you have irregularities, exposing yourself to moonlight can help with that. It's biological.
Wow.
This is a biological thing. And so, we know that, and that's why the word menses or menstruation, I'm having my monthlies. Month comes from moon. It's a moon cycle.
So again, get the fuck out of my head. You gotta stop.
I will not.
because I'm serious. I was gonna ask earlier, okay, let's talk about the significance of the moon. And you're like, what?
It's when you start to understand how these things originated, where did this come from? It's oh my God, we are so connected to the natural world still. Yeah. And we kind of, I think a lot of us kind of think we're not, but it rules us, right? It's so much bigger than us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we care about climate change, is because the world is bigger than we are. We need to be. It
really is. It really is. The entire, the world and the universe.
Yes.
The world and the universe and all of the planets and the stars and the moon and the sun and all of the things. It isn't just us. It isn't just us going from our house to the gym, to the job, to the whatever. There's so much more to it than that.
Yeah, we have to continually, I think, remind ourselves of the immense impact that proximity has on our lives, and the proximity, the visceral reality of nature, it has a profound impact on us. And so to go back to the thought that I had wandered away from, we know the moon has an effect on us. We know that on the world. It affects our tides, it affects our hormones, it affects our emotions. We know that. We have scientific, endlessly verified data that indicates that is accurate. So when we look at Jupiter is a planet that's visible to the naked eye. We've known about it as long as we've been looking at the sky. Why would it be true that the only one of our senses it affects is our eyesight? Why would that be true? We know the same is not true. That's not true of the moon. When we look at the moon, we know it as if we see it. It affects that sense, but we know it affects so much more. Yeah. Why would Jupiter be exempt from that?
Right.
It's because it's farther away. It's also scads bigger. It's so much bigger.
Yeah.
So these things have an effect on us, and we just don't realize it because it's part of the fabric of being a human, that we just take it as normal. We're like, oh yeah, I feel like this right now, or I feel like I just feel really prone to overeating, or I feel really expansive. I feel really lucky. Like all those are kind of Jupiter things.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of think it's random, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not random.
Mm-hmm.
When we understand, we look back at the lineage of astronomy or astrology and astronomy, because they used to be the same thing actually. But like Western astrology, which is the bulk of what I practice, that came from Hellenistic astrology, which is Greco-Roman, which came from Egyptian astrology, which came from Ethiopian astrology. So it's thousands of years old. And then there's Jyotish or Vedic astrology, which is what they practice in India.
Yes, Vedic
And,
I've heard of. Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has its own
Which is
ancient lineage.
completely different.
Right. Complete. It's well, so
Yeah.
it's
Well,
there's
I don't. I want.
you're right.
Sorry.
It's similar in a
Completely.
lot of ways, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of differences, and it is
Yeah.
like their calculations and their chart things, they don't
Yes.
look exactly the same. To me,
Yes.
a lot easier. I find the Western astrology to be a thing that my brain understands better.
And I'm
But
saying this from just a very high level understanding. I just understand that
right,
there is a difference, not
right. There is,
that's it.
and
That's it.
there's
Like your
Chinese
signs would be
astrology.
different in Vedic,
Right. It's
Right.
usually different. They talk about the same signs, but the signs, the way they're calculated is different. And so
Mm-hmm,
most of the
mm-hmm,
time they are going to change between Vedic and Western. Sometimes they
mm-hmm,
don't.
mm-hmm.
Um, but then there's Chinese astrology and
Yeah.
there's Mayan astrology. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
every human civilization has been like, I think those shiny things up there are affecting us. What do you think?
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
then they set about figuring that out, and they made incredible discoveries and genius, brilliant calculations. And we can see this everywhere. If we look at Stonehenge indicates where this, like, it's
Mm.
the solstice. Like, do you know how far people had to drag those stones? We don't even know exactly how they transported them.
I have no idea how. Have you ever
Yeah,
been there? Have you ever
I
been there?
haven't. I have not yet been to
I
Stonehenge.
have. I
I can.
have. And I can tell you the energy is just, I mean, just to be there and stand there in awe of it and say, what is this and how did it get here? Is
I can only imagine. Oh my God.
flippin' amazing. And like my husband took a picture. So the three of us went, my husband and our son went, I want to say 4 years ago ish. And he took this picture with his iPhone that, oh, I'll have to send it to you, Tsipa. It
Oh yes.
is, it has this, the sun is shining over Stonehenge
Mm.
and there is this ring around it. And I'm like, you took that from your iPhone. How did you get that? How did you get that picture? And he said, his response was Stonehenge. And I was just like, I
Yeah.
mean, it
Energy's
takes your
real.
breath away. I was
It's
like,
real. You
how
can.
did you do that? How did you create that thing? He said, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's energy is so real. And when
Mm-hmm.
when like I love science. I love science. I think science is fabulous, and just
Yeah.
I love it. And it cannot be the only rubric by which we measure what's significant to us. It can't. It's
Yeah.
very short-sighted, and there is not a successful civilization in history that was not successful, without taking those like metaphysical, like non-provable things that you feel, or things that are non, quote unquote scientific,
Mm-hmm.
without taking those into account. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look at religion has been one of the things that affects the world
Yeah.
most intensely,
Yeah.
and you can't prove most of that. You can't.
Right.
People just all agree. They're like, yes, Jesus, he's the guy. And
Yeah.
then they
It's
all agree.
stories. It's a collection
Right.
of stories. That's it.
Right. And then there are other
Yeah.
people who are like, no, Jesus is not a real person. And then there are other people who are like, Jesus is a real person, but he's not as significant as Muhammad. And
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
no way to measure any of that.
Right.
Right. We can't measure, like, we can't like take a
Right.
measure and be like, was Jesus the son of God? We can't. There's no way to do that. You have to
No.
just decide for yourself. And so it's so important to just remember that those metaphysical relationships with the world around us, with influences, are those are real and those are having an effect. And, we have the demonstration of, I think it's really important to be able to trust in the wisdom of people who've gone before us, and just not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Be like, okay, so maybe they didn't understand how to build a microwave, but they definitely knew when the solstice was, and they knew how energetically powerful this location was. And when I go there, I can experience the same thing they experienced. And it's massively, it's massively impactful on me. And there are things like, there's a, like if you look at, I was trying to remember the guy's name, Graham something. I'll look it up and see if I can find the name, but he is a journalist, and he looks at a lot of archaeological sites, and he's written a lot about like Göbekli Tepe, which is this archaeological site that actually ruins our understanding of how agriculture developed. Like historians are like, that we should not count that because of our theories, and now they're all ruined. Like it's this total anomaly that is really, really real, and like verifiably so much older than it's supposed to be. But anyway, so one of the things he talked about was the pyramids at Giza, the Great Pyramids, and the Sphinx. And the Sphinx has a lineup with, if you look at the rotation of where the sun is, and where it has been historically, you can actually calculate more accurately when the pyramids at Giza, or when the Sphinx at least, was built, because it points directly to a spot. There's like these two hills, and it points to the spot between the two hills where the sun will rise in the constellation of Leo for this certain duration of years, of like hundreds or thousands of years. And so you can actually say, okay, actually this was built. If this was built at any other time, there's no reason for the Sphinx to point in that direction. It has to have been the astrological significance, because we know the Egyptians had that value.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, so I could nerd out on that for close to ever. But basically, we see that these effects are real. These the planetary effects have been registered by so many cultures throughout history. And so it at least bears looking at. We can also look, I think, so, okay. I'm getting very excited. There's so many things.
I know.
So one thing is like looking at this historically and being like, okay, something is at least significant enough for many, many, many cultures to have a relationship with this. And then we can look at things, and here's where I think it gets to be helpful, is we can look at things anecdotally, right? Through our own experience. There are many people throughout history who have used astrology to gain power or be more effective. Like Ronald Reagan very famously had an astrologer, and the media kind of figured it out after he'd be like, yes, I'm going to have a press conference at 3:27 p.m. on June 14th. And, it's like, that's a very specific time. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He had an astrologer, and the press kind of figured it out after they were like
3:27
in the morning. Like
really
that.
Weird.
Okay. All right. And so, we can see that people have used it, but then let's look at like, how can it affect you and your life? Like, how can you really use it? And I think that one of the easiest ways is to just know your sun, moon, and rising. And again, if you're an entrepreneur, your midheaven is going to be really helpful for you, because that opens up your 10th house.
What is a midheaven? What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, midheaven is a point in your chart. If you look at your birth chart, there's going to be like two intersecting heavy black lines.
Okay, so I'm looking at the pie again. I'm looking at the pie, and it's divided into 12 pieces.
Right. And then you've got two big black lines, one going horizontally. It's always going to be perfectly horizontal. And then one that's going to be something like perpendicular to it.
Okay.
Usually it's not perfectly perpendicular. Your chart, I think actually it is.
Stop.
Yeah, I think you're.
I think you're right, though.
Yeah, I think they're perfectly perpendicular. Most people, there's some kind of, it's not perfectly a 90-degree angle. So the horizontal line is your ascendant and your descendant. Your ascendant is your rising sign. Your descendant is sort of represents something else. We don't need to get into it. I don't want to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Then the other line, the vertical-ish line, is your midheaven and IC. So IC is Imam Cheli, midheaven is media Cheli. It's or medium Cheli. It's midheaven. So IC represents your it's like your most private self, right? It's down below where it's like, this is my private home, me. It is in your, it starts your fourth house. And it's that like most sort of rooted part of you. It's your ancestry, your family, your the family you create or the family you're from. It's like those root issues, that being at home. What do you like to have at your home? And then your 10th house, right? It's that highest point. It's the highest point in the sky. At the moment you were born, that's like the peak visibility. And so it's the place where you are most visible. It's your career and your public image. It's your reputation. And when you know what that energy is, so like people who just meet you, they're going to judge you by your rising sign, right? I'm a Gemini rising. So people who just meet me, they're like, wow, she talks a lot. She's really excited to be here. That's, and I'm like, that is accurate.
Yeah.
But Gemini rising, it's like, that's what people are going to see about me and have that first impression. They're going to be Gemini rising. Yeah. My midheaven is an Aquarius. Aquarius is like a humanitarian kind of, there's this sense of like calculating what is the most effective way to help the most people. And that is, there's this almost sense of like, Aquarius is about individuation. So it can have that sense of like sort of being other than, like sticking out of the group, because Aquarius energy is about being on the other side, like being outside the group and looking at what the group needs to be happy, healthy, effective. So people who get to know me a little bit more, like people who just meet me, it's like Gemini rising, people who get to know me a little bit more, or my reputation within a community or within, networks, is going to be more about the Aquarius, right? Yeah. So people's first impressions of me are going to be those two signs. And when I understand that, it's like, oh, okay, how can I cultivate the really positive qualities of that, so that when people have these impressions of me, they're getting the best versions of that. Like, I'm not going to try to come off as like really like a Libra, where I'm like really fair all the time and I'm a diplomat and I'm like making sure everybody is like feels heard and listened to, not because I don't care or I don't want to, or I don't have those qualities in me, but because that's not the most effective way for me to be shiny in my work or in my reputation. Like, my most effective way to be shiny in my work is going to be being like really going into that the really aligned or the really like juicy, yummy version of Aquarius, which is like, okay, tell me everything. Like, I want to be efficient. And also it's okay if I'm a little bit of a weirdo and you guys don't understand me. Totally. All right. The people who love the unusual ones will find me. It's fine. Yeah. And then Aquarius can also be about that, like the occult things, or the, just having an unusual take on the world. Like, that's a very Aquarian thing. And so when I remember that, it's like, okay, then what I'm doing is actually really perfect for that. I'm a soul coach. I'm a psychic. I'm a healer. I'm a certified coach as well. I do that, and I combine a lot of these woo things. And I also I love taking philosophy or religion or scientific principles or, all these things, and combining them, utilizing these insights from other disciplines and using them to refine what I do. And it's not something that's going to fit neatly into a box, but it's also not supposed to. Right. So that's that normalizing. What's one of the ways that I normalize this sense of like, I don't belong here. Like, oh, I'm just not average in that area.
It's like creating your own recipe.
Yes.
Instead of following some cookbook all of the cookbooks out there say it's supposed to be like this, Like, this is the way to make lasagna. This is the
Yep.
only way to make lasagna. This is the best way to make lasagna. You're like, I'm going to experiment and I'm going to add a few more things that maybe you've never seen in there before. I mean, just,
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
just
It's
to
like
try an analogy like that. I mean, but I mean, and just thinking about that, even outside of coaching, I mean, just like in your daily life, it's like, how can I bring this version of self to the world in a way, instead of, because our entire lives, Tsipa, we are told we have to be this way, right? That we need to show up this way and be this way. And we have,
and if you don't, then it's bad and it's wrong and you need to fix it.
yes. And
And
we've been
that's why,
conditioned
yes,
and conditioned and conditioned. And so it's like,
yes,
okay, so even just taking a step back and saying, okay, how can I like bring the best parts of myself to this world? That is where you come in and you help with that, right?
exactly, exactly. Because
Yeah.
when we're trying to, like, you could have an amazing pie that you made that's like, you know, you hand rolled the dough and it's gorgeous, and you made intricate designs with it, and you're like, you know what, this pie is going to be a berry pie, but it's going to be, I'm not going to just mix all the berries together. I'm going to have this part that's a little more blueberries with a couple of raspberries thrown on top, and then this part's going to be blackberry with a few strawberries in it, and this part's going to be cherry with a couple apples in there, and I just
Yeah.
want there to be some like blending, and it's this beautiful pie, and people are like, whoa, you just revolutionized pie, that's incredible. And then you bring it to somebody who's like, this is not lemon meringue.
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Go back and try it again. And you're like, but
This
it's a
is,
work of art. It's gorgeous. It's
this
incredible.
is amazing.
Taste it? Right. And they're like, it is the worst lemon meringue pie I've ever seen in my life. Like literally
Right.
the worst.
Right.
And you're like,
Right.
it's not supposed to be lemon meringue. It's like
Yeah.
berry magic melange thing. Like you get,
It's
can
berry
you,
magic.
right. Can you like appreciate it for what it is? And they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
lemon meringue. Are you
Yeah.
stupid? You might be stupid. And it's just like
Yeah.
that sense of
Mm-hmm.
that we can feel, whether that's actually intended by a person or not.
Mm-hmm.
It can be so deep because we're
Yeah.
not matching their expectation. And
Yeah.
what I love about astrology, about the birth chart, it's like, screw the expectations. This is how you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
The way that you are, the thing that you think you've been doing wrong for
Mm-hmm.
30 years,
Mm-hmm. For 30 years.
they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it your way. And the reason you're not quote unquote doing it right is because you're doing it like an Aquarius, and they think you should be a Virgo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, when we have the language for that, and that's all this is, astrology is just, it's just languaging and visualizing why you are normal and correct. Why you are valid as a human being. And that's what I love about it, is that I get to look at your birth chart and being like, hey, you're awesome. And I have proof, because like the stars wrote it down. God took a picture and was like, hey, look how perfect this one is. Oh, there's another person. Look how perfect this one is.
The universe says so. Exactly.
Yeah. The universe is like, hey, look how amazing this person can be. Right. And it's so powerful to have that experience where you're like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be this way. Oh my God. I'm not broken.
Yes. I cannot tell you how powerful that is. Well, I can't tell you because you know.
Yeah. But it's powerful every time. And being able to facilitate that for people is.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's the approach I had to coaching before I started incorporating astrology. Now I just have more power behind it, because I'm like, people don't even have to tell me anything about themselves. I get to go into their chart and look at it. And I'm like, here's what your childhood was like. Here's what you think about yourself. You've been having a big problem with XYZ, and it's not really a problem, but you wanted to approach it this way instead of the way you have been, because the way you have been is not going to help you the way you're designed to do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know them.
Yeah.
And they come to me and they're like, when I look at their chart and I tell them these things, and they're like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you. Yes. And it's like this, it's like a relief. It's like you get to stop carrying. It's like you've had like you've been living inside like a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, like one of those like blow up things, or like a float, and you've been pretending to be like having to carry this costume around you to pretend to be somebody else that is approved of and that's good enough, and then you're like barely making it, struggling, and you're exhausted, and you're like, I just want to put this effing thing down.
Yeah.
And then when we look at your birth chart, I'm like, oh, put it down. That's not you.
Yeah.
Pull off the pretty shiny things. Take the things you like pull the sequins and the feathers off, bring those, put them in a bag. You can, just like take the things that you like about this costume you've been carrying and just literally leave the rest. Just ditch it.
Yeah.
It'll just dissolve. It'll just evaporate. And then we get to construct not a costume, but an embellishment, a decoration, a celebration of who you actually are and who you like to be.
Yeah.
And who you are designed to be here as, like the person that you are designed to live as. And that's why astrology is important. It's because I have not found any other method that is this effective of telling people who you are is fine, who you are is good, who you are is powerful, who you are is surprisingly amazing, and who you are is designed to have this beautiful impact on the world. And I know it, and I can prove it to you because it's written down and you didn't tell me anything.
It is literally written in the stars.
Literally. Yes.
It's literally written in the stars.
Here's the fun thing, including our desires. Do you know what the word desire means?
Mm-mm.
The root of the word desire means under the stars.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding. It comes from the roots de sidere.
Of course, you know all the roots. And
I love
you do. I know that's where you nerd out on all the time.
Oh yeah. And the reason I love the etymology is because it gives us those insights. We're like, oh my God, that's what, and then it makes sense. And then we get that like flash. Cause now that I just said that, don't you have this like wash of
yes, I have a completely different. Yes. Yeah.
And so, so I love etymology for that. And so the roots of the word desire are under the stars. It's written in the stars. Your desires are in the stars, and they're there because you're supposed to go have them.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're supposed, and it's not just the getting them.
Supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. The stars are like, come this way, babe. Oh, listen. I love you. Oh, come here. I made you something. It's awesome. Can we do the thing? And it's not just the getting that thing. It's the wanting it, the desiring it. It's the pursuing it. It's the learning about it. Sometimes it's the not getting it. That's even more satisfying than the getting it. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's the journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. Right.
And it's the relationship. Like Chiron is an asteroid in the chart that I love. And Chiron is, so mythologically, Chiron was this centaur, and he was a healer and a teacher, and just like miraculous healer. Amazing. He could heal everybody. Hercules went and killed the Lernaean Hydra and dipped his arrows in Hydra blood, which are just like definitely going to kill you. There's no cure for this. And he went around with these arrows and just basically ended up creating havoc. I don't know how many people he accidentally injured with these stupid arrows, but a lot. Like he had no responsibility for these arrows.
Yeah.
But one of the people that got injured was Chiron. So Chiron was an immortal being. He was, he was this centaur that was, he happened to be half god, so he was immortal. And so he couldn't die from this wound, but he also couldn't heal the wound because it was Hydra blood. It couldn't be cured. Like he just had to live with this wound forever. And so that's the mythology of it. And the asteroid Chiron in our chart represents a wound with which we are always going to have a relationship. So some people call it the wounded healer, and I think of it as the healing healer, because when we think of a wound as something that has to be healed, it's like we get kind of forceful, and we're like Cinderella's stepsister being like, I'll make it fit and we'll get this thing figured out. It's very forceful, graspy energy. It's like tension, and there's no grace there. It's this very just, I must make it be different. There's a rejection. And when we're in right relationship with our Chiron, what it is this, it's this tender place within us with which we will always have a relationship. It's a tender place within us, which we will always be caring for and nurturing. And the goal is not to heal it so that we can set it down. The goal is to love it as it is.
As it is.
And so
Mm-hmm.
like, just, I love Chiron. I love when we can have that acceptance. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about, accepting, normalizing that those things that we have within us that we carry, we're like, I just got to get rid of this. I got to get off the struggle bus. It's like, no.
Yeah.
First, just be on the struggle bus for a minute without trying to get off. Maybe there's something there to learn. Maybe there's something
out the scenery.
Yeah.
I mean,
isn't it nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. You are being chauffeured everywhere. That's kind of nice.
I mean, there is that. Right.
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 No one's on the struggle bus that they're like driving. Everyone's on the struggle bus and they're riding.
Yes, exactly.
Because there are also benefits to being on the struggle bus. And if we're not honest about all of that, about the drawbacks and the benefits, and just not rejecting our own selves for that journey, then we can be like, oh, okay, the struggle bus is not a horrible place. I can be on, like, if I were on here forever, I can do that too. That's okay. This is not bad. And when we reach that point of total acceptance of where we are, that's when the bus will stop and we can get off if we want to.
Total acceptance of where we are. Wow. I think with a statement that profound, I don't know what more needs to be said. I'm honestly, I'm taking it all in, everything that you're saying. And that place of total acceptance of who we are, where we are, when we are, and however long we're going to be there is, wow. That's it. That's it. Is it not? I mean, that's what we have.
It's so transformative. And like I said, that's a Taoist principle. I
love Taoism.
Yeah. It's, if you haven't read the Tao Te Ching is incredible. It's, I personally am a huge fan of the Stephen Mitchell translation. I love it. And it's been really widely accepted. He did a very, very thorough job of researching and translation. And it's also very poetic and beautiful. So his translation is personally my current favorite. But it got me through the lowest time of my life. It got me through a time when I had just had like a very, very nearly terminal illness. I had surgery. I had incredibly bad complex PTSD from, life events, but also this very near-death experience. It was like multiple near-death experiences with an illness. And I finally got this life-saving surgery very, very near to when I was going to die from this condition. And I had gotten married right before that. And then I went through all this stuff and I was like, oh my God, I'm not married to the right person. And we got divorced. And I was like falling apart. I was like, my whole life was burning down. And I listened to or read the Tao Te Ching probably, 40 or 50 times. It's not very big. And I had the audiobook. So I listened to the audiobook to try to get myself to sleep, to try to soothe myself to sleep. And it's all about acceptance. It's like, there is no good, like if there's something that's good, then there's something else that's bad. If you create an idea of what's good, then it's only good because it's in contrast to something else that is now bad, and neither good nor bad actually exist. Right. And being able to just accept the isness of something, like it's not good, it's not bad, it just is like, it literally saved my life. I was resisting dying so hard. Because, naturally I was 29 and it was not my plan to die at 29 from a condition that nobody could even identify. And I just was like, okay, I have to accept that this is what's happening. This is what's happening to me. I am going to die. I'm going to die. I don't know. I don't even know why. I don't know why, but I am going to die. And that is what is occurring currently. That is where we are at. And the more I struggle against this, the more miserable and, frantic and honestly near insane I feel. Like I was just so miserable and so I was in so much turmoil and struggle and pain. And I finally just had to like have a, you know, come to Jesus moment with myself and be like, listen, we're going to die. We can either do it feeling horrible like this, or we
Yeah.
can find the peace.
Yeah.
Which do you want to do?
Yeah.
Because it's coming. It's coming, your choice. And I was like, I guess I'll just try to find peace with it. And so I worked really diligently to just bring myself back and bring myself back and bring myself back to that place of acceptance. And it was after I found that place of acceptance and I really was like, okay, I'm going to die. I'm going to be leaving everybody I love. I have a life insurance policy. So I know that that will at least benefit my, you know, my then husband and my mother and my sister. I'm going to make peace with as many people as I can. I'm going to be in appreciation of as much as I can. And I'm going to be okay with this. And it was a few days after that, that one of my doctors was like, there's another, you have to go back and get this one test again, because I can tell there's this thing going on. I can hear it. It was a growth in my trachea. She was like, I can hear something there. And I went back and got the other test. And the doctor was like, oh, it's this, there's this, you have a subglottic stenosis. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. I thought it was cancer. I, you know, burst out crying, but it turned out to be a thing that was very treatable. And I got treatment. But I don't think that if I had been in the place of resistance of what was happening, that I could have accessed any of that transformation. I think that I really truly believe I had to go through acceptance of the worst that can happen to me in order to move through it.
My God, that is so powerful. That is a very powerful story. Okay. I am going to have to link a lot of things. But the Tao, what was it?
Tao Te Ching. So it's
Tao Te Ching.
Okay. Yeah, Tao and then Te and then Ching. But in it's Chinese, and they just just
Tao Te Ching. Yeah, right. Yes. So I will. There's you said you listened to it in a specific translation. So
the Stephen Mitchell translation. You can buy the book. You can actually access it online as well. I just love having a little book because I love physical books. But then he also narrated his own audiobook, and he has the most soporific voice. Like you listen to him and you're like, oh, I do feel better. Good night.
So you're going to give me a link to that too, because because it doesn't sound like, but it's, again, just the exploration. Okay. So all of this entire conversation has been an exploration outside of the things that we normally are exposed to. Right.
Yeah.
In our daily lives, including starting with how to pronounce your name, all the way to how to accept your possible death. I mean, all of it.
There's the gamut.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 I mean, I'm doing my best not to be emotional at the moment. It is what it is.
It is. I always say if tears are what feel like they need to happen, then that's what's supposed to happen.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So, all the space for any of that, because it is like when we allow ourselves, like one of the things that I love about this conversation is that you are allowing yourself to ride the waves of emotion. And it's so enjoyable to be a part of that, to like be in conversation with someone who's like, whoa, that's amazing. You're like, I know, isn't it cool? Like we get to go there together. And we're on Zoom. Like I have not left my desk and you have not left yours.
Right.
Like we're both at our places. We're not in the same location at all, but we've gone on this journey together because we both are willing to feel the feelings of the journey. Yeah. And it just makes it so much like deeper and more enjoyable.
And not only that, we get to share this journey with everyone. I mean, how powerful is that too, to just have this conversation, have this moment, yes, be able to look one another in the eye, but also to have it recorded and share it with the world is just the most amazing thing.
It
It
really is.
is
It is such a blessing. It's like, can
great.
you think about, like, imagine
Yeah.
100 years ago,
Yeah. No,
200
not
years ago,
possible.
two women
Yeah.
talking to each other
Yeah.
about ideas and then get to share it with the entire world. Like, this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like, we live in some very cool times. I'll say
I
very,
agree.
very cool times. Like, this is incredible that we get to do this.
I
And
agree with you. I have to remind myself of that often because yes, I do get caught up in, and I'm sure our listeners can, um, can relate. We do get caught up in what's happening out there in the day to day, and we get, pissed off about this and that.
comparisonitis and
Yeah, and we get, all of those things. But ultimately, I do, but I stop myself all the time and say, what a wonderful time to be alive in this time, because I'm feeling that some amazing shit is happening.
yeah.
And that includes this conversation. That includes every little thing that goes down in the day that I just really hone in on. I'm like, my God, what an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah.
And knowing what you've been through too, I can only imagine that you probably say that to yourself daily, you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, yeah, it is. And it's the
Yeah.
bringing yourself back to it, because it is easy
Yeah.
to get caught up in
Hmm.
mundane things. It's easy to be like, oh, I have to do the dishes again. I just did dishes.
Yeah.
Who keeps eating food in my house? Right.
Right.
Or, like on Instagram. And I'm like, I don't live in Ibiza. Like, I don't live in Ibiza. That's stupid. Why am I not? It's like just goofy things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's part of it too, though. That's part of, that gets to be a part of the whole experience. And when I'm not rejecting, like when I'm not
Yes.
like only the good feelings, the ones that I've pre-approved, oh, those are the only ones that get to stay. And the feelings of dissatisfaction or annoyance or frustration, those are bad. And I should not have.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm alive. Right. And
Acceptance.
I think that when you've had,
Yes.
when you've had a near-death experience,
Mm-hmm.
it can become easier, but it also becomes more important. It's like a little bit of a check on, my hubris. It's like a check on and an exhortation to increase my hubris. Cause it's like, on the one hand, it's like, girl, you almost died.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you really mad about dishes?
Yeah.
You got a whole extra life. I have had a whole extra life that I get to live since I didn't die. It's very cool. Like, and I went into surgery thinking like literally like I'm going to die, and not because they had, they were like, here's what's wrong. We know we'll do surgery. It's fine. You're going to be great in like 3 days and it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm pretty sure surgery is where you die. I'm pretty sure, like,
Sure. Yeah.
this is my first surgery. They're putting me under anesthesia. I'm like, no, I'm not coming out of this. Okay. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. And then I was like,
I get to be
oh
here.
my God, I can
to
breathe. Oh my God, I can breathe. This is and like those first moments of breathing after months and months and months of not being able to breathe, because that's what I was doing, is like restricting my airway. And so I was like not able to breathe properly. And those first few breaths after I woke up from surgery, like, first of all, I was also still on the painkillers and the anesthesia, but also I had like breathing for the first time properly in several years. I was like, I might have an orgasm right now. This is the best feeling in the world. Breath is so good.
Breath is amazing.
Feeling.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Like we don't understand. I had never understood
Yeah.
until I had that feeling. And I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I just walk around with this sensation all the time and I've been ignoring it.
Yeah.
No. So it's like, on the one hand, it's like, if I get frustrated with the mundane things, I'm like, Tsipa, this is not the vibe. This is not what
breathing.
You're breathing, girl. This is real good. Go out there and do those dishes, right? You feel envious of people on Instagram. Go enjoy it though. Like do it for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is that it really is like, okay, well, if that's the case, like if this is all kind of a freebie for me,
Mm-hmm.
do what I want, like
Yeah,
I go out there and
exactly.
do something
Exactly.
big and weird and crazy and daring and interesting and possibly terrible and go do the things.
And it doesn't have to take a near-death experience to channel that.
Nope.
It
Nope.
doesn't have to take that. It doesn't even have to take, I'm sorry, but it doesn't even have to take an astrological reading to channel that.
No, it
It
doesn't. You
just,
can just have it
you
in this.
just, all you have to do is decide,
Yeah. You
I'm
just have
fucking
the moment.
breathing
Yes.
and
I'm
let's do
breathing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a podcast. That means my ears work. Do you know how many people
Yeah.
their ears just don't work?
Yeah.
Or they don't
Yeah.
work anymore.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
eyeballs work. I'm looking out at trees. There are trees outside. Do trees exist?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. Pardon
Yeah.
my French. I hope I can.
Mm-mm.
Okay, cool. But like trees are a whole thing. Like, did you know that trees communicate with each other through their roots?
Yes.
And if a tree is
Yes.
down, they send each other energy and nutrients so that the stump of the tree doesn't die. They keep just the stump. It's just a stump now. It's not productive. It's not helping any other members of the forest. It's not gathering. It's not photosynthesizing. It's not gathering anything. It's not contributing anymore. They're keeping it alive because they love it. And they have this network of communication. And if we think of that, like think about just if we think of that as an allegory for like vulnerable members of our population who are like quote unquote not productive.
Yeah.
I mean, if trees figured out how to do that, I think we can work it out. Like
I think we can. I think we can. I know trees are amazing. I will stop and hug one.
Oh,
all the time.
Is the most fun.
It really is. Because I feel that energy. I know I know about the roots. I know about that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just.
And yeah, it's incredible. And when you let yourself tap into these, to these esoteric, energetic experiences, it just enriches everything else. And you don't have to stop doing all the regular muggly stuff. Like you don't have to stop doing your dishes or paying your taxes or running a business. Like
right.
You like, I go to an accountant to have my taxes done. And I'm like, yes, my accountant's amazing. And that's so cool. And, I take notes on things and I do the dishes and I think I have dishes to do. I think this must be why I keep thinking of it. But it's like, we still get to do the regular human stuff. And then we get to infuse it with this just sense of awe, like, wow, that's a visceral sensation just existing in the world. That is very, very amazing. And I get to just have all of it. And when we open ourselves up to there is no good and bad, then everything we're experiencing takes on that almost orgasmic quality. We're like, wow, I'm really humaning.
Yeah.
Really hard right now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm really humaning.
Right.
Oh
and
my God.
It all becomes so interesting. Right. And it's like, it's not, there's not good and bad. Like last night, I was just so mad. I was just mad. I was just mad. I was mad at my boyfriend. I was mad at the world. I was mad at gravity. It's like, why does gravity keep happening? Just keep
what is gravity?
I don't trust stairs. Gravity is always trying to take me down. Like, get us together, gravity. I was just mad. I was just like finding reasons to be mad just because I wanted to be mad. And finally I was like, I think you just want to be mad. And I was like, oh, okay, let's just be mad then.
Yeah.
So I was just mad. And I talked to my sister and I was like, this is stupid and that is stupid, but not in a like dumpy way. Like we were both kind of just enjoying the kvetching. And I just let myself be really mad. And it felt so good to just be alive in that particular flavor. Right.
See, I love that. I love ending on that note, actually, saying that it feels good to be alive and that it's okay to be mad and it's okay to be frustrated and it's okay to be annoyed that you have dishes to do. I have a pile of laundry sitting on top of the washer and dryer that drives my husband crazy. Like here's my thing. It's like, I'll do the dishes, but I am the one that I do the washing and the drying, and then I just throw it in a pile on top.
I literally have
it might get folded in 5 to 7 business days. I'm not sure, but it makes him crazy because he does have a little mini fridge of his of his spritzers and of course beer in the laundry room. So he goes in there and he's like, every day he's like, oh,
here's what'll definitely help. Go tell your husband to appreciate the joy of anger and frustration.
Right. Oh my God.
Don't do that.
I know. No, I know. It's so funny. No, it's so funny that he's like, I'm always on the guys about they will get in the pantry and they leave the door open. And I'm like, close the pantry door. That's bad feng shui. It's bad feng shui. Do not do it. Right?
Don't do it. I know that's one of my things. I'm like, it's
drives me nuts. But he's like, you're talking about the pantry door, but you put this shit on top of the washer and dryer, and you don't.
Listen, righteousness is delicious. Righteousness is delicious, and my righteousness about this is like, it takes not even a full second to close a cupboard door. It takes so much work to fold my laundry. I don't want to fold on my laundry. I like it in a pile. I don't really like a pile, but I don't want to. My thing's harder than your thing. So I'm right. And I get to enjoy that little like yummy righteousness, which is like the most addictive feeling. You have to like be aware of that. It's like, sometimes you just want to feel righteous. So maybe just go feel it and don't look for a reason to feel it. Just feel it because you want to feel it.
Even or like being righteous. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. But overall, the aliveness part of it, because, I had an episode a few back about, happiness is not the goal. We are not like designed to be happy all the time, although we chase it down like it's the biggest prize. Like I will be, like it's a state of being that once I
get to there,
it'll be there all the time. It'll be there
once I get to Ibiza. Everything will be fine. If I just could move to Ibiza, then like I wouldn't have any problems anymore because I'd stop having a human brain.
Right. So so what I appreciate is what it is you bringing into the conversation. There's all these other emotions that we get to feel and that we will feel, and we just get to accept and embrace them as they are, including righteous, anger, whatever.
Yeah, it is delicious and taboo and weird, but you actually can enjoy every single feeling you have. You can enjoy heartbreak, you can enjoy pain, you can enjoy nervousness, you can enjoy all those things. And it's not easy, but it is a simple concept. And if you remember that that's true, then your whole life can get just yummier. It's not even better. It's just yummier.
Because it means you're alive.
Yes, exactly. And we get that, like I do reincarnation astrology. So I know that we have past lives. I past life regression. I do these. I know we have that, but this one's delicious because it's this one.
Exactly.
Right.
This one.
And it just because there's more of them doesn't mean that this one's like a throwaway.
Right.
It'll be yummy in this one. This is really yummy. May I plug my Facebook group for a sec?
Please.
Okay. So I'm starting a free Facebook group. It's called Play in Full. And this is the idea of it. It's like really being in your life, because I recognize my tendency, my 12th house Taurus. I have 6 placements in my 12th house. So it's like the 12th house is sort of like the land of hidden things. It's like the island of lost toys. It's so easy to hide. And when it's in Taurus, it's just like really easy for me to just bunker up with, my couch and my snacks and a book and just not be in the world. And I know that I'm not the only one who does that. And especially with lockdown, it's so easy to forget that there's a world out there and that we are capable of interacting with it. And so we can link it. And the idea is just like, come and let's play fully. Let's like play in full. Yeah.
Love it.
Be like in it, feeling the feelings. And how do we enjoy all of those feelings? How do we enjoy and increase the number of amazingly good things that happen to us? And how do we appreciate and go deeply into the shit things that happen to us? And just like be like stew deliciously in the life of all of it.
I love it. I love it. How else can folks connect with you?
I am on Instagram. And I am on Facebook, and I have my Instagram presence is probably the bigger one right now, but I also have a website, tsipaswan.com, and people can find me there, look at the the resources I've got there. And yeah, just come start a conversation. Facebook, Instagram, website, wherever it is, come start a conversation. Join me in my Facebook group, and let's just have some fun out there.
I can attest to the fact that you are very accessible. I mean, I met you on social media initially, and you're very responsive, and here we are. Here we are, and we are in a full-blown relationship now, my friend.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. Do you want to share about that? Or you don't
yeah, we can. No, yeah, we totally can. Yeah.
It sort of sounds like we're dating now. We're not dating.
I know,
like
right?
we are both tragically partnered, but
let's talk about that. But you know what? I mean, yeah, you talk about, the past life regression and things like that. It's like, I feel like I know you from somewhere. I don't know. You're supposed to be here. So, yeah, we are getting ready to embark on a little journey.
Yes,
you have started a program called Awaken.
Yes, it's called Awaken, and it's teaching the 12 archetypes, so it's the archetypes that go along with the zodiac signs.
Mm-hmm.
And because if you think of your chart as a pie,
yeah,
there is, there's placements. You have planets in some of those signs, some of those slices of the pie, and others you don't. So some places you're going to be really good at having, at like living embodied as your Scorpio self, or living as your Libra self, or living as your Aries self, or whatever that is. But other places are they're less accessible to you.
Yeah.
We don't have all of the archetypes lit up or awakened in ourselves. And that's where the name came from. And so the idea is, and it's something that I've been doing by one-on-one clients. It's been really, really cool to watch the transformation that happens, but we all have a right to all 12 of those archetypes. So it's not like if you're really responsible, you're just not somebody who's ever going to be like flowy and going with the universe and like tuned into your psychic self or whatever. Everybody has a psychic self. Or if you're really if you're the opposite, if you're like really go with the flow and you're like in the stars and you're like in like that psychic space, it doesn't mean you can't also be really responsible and disciplined, because you have that too. So the only difference is whether those archetypes are awakened within you. And when they are, it expands your entire self. So you have your sense of self becomes the fullest version. And you have access to being wherever I'm holding my hands out in the circle. It's wherever within that circle the moment and the energy calls for you to be, you can be there. You can inhabit that space. And you can move very quickly around because you have claimed all of it as your own, and you're not rejecting any part of yourself as that's other. That's, I didn't get that part. I didn't get the responsible part, or I didn't get the motherly part, or I didn't get the
part that wants to fold the laundry.
Right.
I mean, no, I love that you're doing this, and I'm so excited to be. I know this is like your flagship, if you will. Your first round of this program. I'm honored to be a part of it. I really am. So
I'm so glad you're going to be in it. I really look forward to it.
Me too. Oh, all right, girl. I will. I'll be talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was just clearing my throat. My goodness, I've gotten verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves.
He's got the Jewish thing coming out. It's so funny. All right. Thank you so much. This was a very, very deep, wild ride with you today. And again, I cannot wait to share it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was really a pleasure, and yeah, just such a joy and an honor to be here with you.
Oh, take care, girl.
You too.
Bye. I mean, how fantastic was this? I told you that it would be. I just want to pull out and restate a few things that were said here today, because I find them so very meaningful in this time that we are existing. Because I often find myself asking, what have my past lives been? Who was I? Where was I? What were my soul contracts? These are questions that I ponder, yet Tsipa really grounds me when she says things like, it's this life that deserves our focus. This life. Right here, right now. Yes, that grounding. And she may not have actually said that, but she did kind of say that. If you're really tuned in, I'm sure you heard it. And I have received that same message from several other areas of my life since we recorded this, and I am listening. Things that she absolutely did say, there is nothing but acceptance. The more I struggle against this, the more frantic I will be. And when I think about those statements in relation to the world we are living in today, like many of you, I thought 2020 was probably going to be a shit show, and now 2021 has been like, hold my beer. Oh, I hear you sounding off on social media. I want to strip all of that worry from you and bathe you in peace, to remind you that there is nothing but acceptance. And the more I struggle against this, the more frantic I will be. That we have to go through acceptance of the worst that can happen. That doesn't mean playing out all of the scary scenarios, but accepting them. What if the worst thing happens? You can't prevent it. Perhaps the story has already been written. What if that is true? Finally, I want to bring it back to what was said as we neared the end about two women sharing their lives, that these are unprecedented times. What a wonderful time to be alive. And how many times have you heard that phrase over the past year and a half? Unprecedented. Now, how many times have you heard, what a wonderful time to be alive? We are best served to remember that women especially haven't always been allowed to speak their minds as freely as we are now in these times. Our grandmothers could not, many of our mothers could not, yet here we are, saying all of the things that really need to be said, reaching out for one another, and yes, helping one another heal, nurturing, being who we were always meant to be, unapologetic. This is who we are. Be sure to check the show notes for ways to connect with my friend and soul coach, Tsipa Swan. She is just as amazing as she sounds here today. And don't forget that it is written in the stars for you to light up and shine on.